Welcome to another video on my series and documentation where I demonstrate to you how I use my ESP microprocessor and servos to bring action into my Iron Man mannequin. So far I have documented the build of two specialized ESPs and their servos. One for the head of the Iron Man mannequin. That ESP is responsible for raising and lowering the faceplate and turning the LEDs in the eyes on and off. And the second one is in charge of the shoulders of the mannequin. It opens and closes shoulder flaps and raises and lowers the missile launchers. So technically spoken, this is what we have here, the two ESPs. Each ESP has one or multiple servos connected to it, and they both work independently from each other, which might be fine in some or many use cases. But why is this not what I want to stay with? To better understand that, let's take a look at the user interface that I have with those two separate ESPs for the separate parts of the mannequin. Here we have the starting page or the ESPHome page, and for each of the ESPs, for the helmet and for the shoulders, we have separate web front ends and buttons associated with the different actions that we can initiate. This is totally okay if you want to manipulate these things solitarily, but what if you want to be able in a position to create, let's say, an animation where first the helmet closes and then the shoulder flaps open and the missiles come up? Then to have this, you would have to load the different web pages, click on the separate buttons, and you'll be responsible to do the entire sequence, because there currently is no way of manipulating or creating a sequence that makes use of both of the ESPs. The reason for this is that ESPHome, as our base technology that I decided to use, was mainly built for home automation in technologies like Home Assistant or others. And there, Home Assistant would be the brain behind coordinating the activities for the separate ESPs. But in my case, I want to still be independent of Home Assistant. So what we need to establish is a communication between the ESPs, or initiating a master brain, a Jarvis, that is responsible for communicating with all the other ESPs that we have in play. So what we're going for is to just add the third ESP microprocessor to our setup. This ESP will not have any servos connected to it. It could, but I'm not going to do it, because all he's going to do is communicate with the other ESPs and initiate actions on those or via those other ESPs. But how should Jarvis, our new ESP, initiate actions on the other ESPs? Luckily, there's a very simple solution to it. If you remember when we built our web UIs for the helmet or the shoulders, we created buttons, the actions that we can initiate via the web front end. In parallel, what happened under the cover is that we also created web services that we can call to initiate those buttons. So the buttons are not only the physical visualization in the website, but there's also a service that we can call to initiate an action. And there's also a very simple way to find those actions. In my case, because I have a German setup, I will go in my Chrome browser and in view, I will go into developer mode and developer tools. And that pops up this new area here. And now if I initiate an action, for example, turn on the lights, I can see on this side what happened. And there's a function called that's name is turn on. And if I click on that here, I can get the full request URL that has been called to turn on the lights or initiate that turn on action on my ESP. And let's copy this text here, open a new tab, put this here into our URL part, and instead of on, let's call off. And if we go back here on the website, you see that it has been initiated, and the debug output of our ESP shows that the eyes were changed into state off. So this is how you identify what URL to call to initiate the action for a specific button. Now that we know how to get the right web services to trigger certain buttons or actions in other ESPHome instances, let's take a look at how to use those in our source code for our new Jarvis ESPHome. If you look at my desk here, I've already connected and prepared the ESP. If you don't know how to do that, please take a look at my earlier videos where I ran through the entire process. Okay, let's take a look at the source code. And here again, I will be skipping the parts that I already covered in previous videos, and we'll just take a look at the important stuff. So for one, we are defining here the section that we will be using HTTP requests. And in the scripts section that you should already know from the shoulder video, here you find the calling of the web service. And for example, here I created a script called helmet and missile script. And if that is triggered, it will call first the above web service, that is the fire all missiles. And after that, he will close the helmet. Actually stupid, I should change the order, but well, this is how I've done it right now. And well, what the heck, let's quickly change it. So taking away this here, posting it down here. Let's do this little change very quickly and on demand. And then here in the button section, we are calling the script up here that is provided in here. So let's save, install, and let's come back when the upload is done and I've refreshed everything. To put everything to the test, I did arrange some of the browser windows here on the screen so that you can better follow what's really then happening. So let's talk about what we see here. This one browser window shows just my ESP homepage with the 3 ESPs that we have, the one for the helmet, the one for the shoulders, and Jarvis. Then right to it we have the web dashboard of the ESPHome running the Jarvis code with the button that we just created earlier. Down here we have the Ironman shoulder ESPHome and the Ironman helmet ESPHome. Nice side-by-side comparison between the version 3 dashboard or web UI as in the helmet as in the shoulders, sorry, or and the older one in the helmet. Okay, let's arrange everything so that you can see the debug. So what do we expect? When we press the helmet and missile button on Jarvis, what we expect is the helmet to get triggered, to close the helmet, and then the shoulder ESPHome should get the commands to do its action, like open the flaps, raise the rockets, wait, lower the rockets, close the flaps, etc. So let's put it to a test. Let's press helmet and missiles. And here we have it. The helmet got its action, the shoulder got their action, and everything worked. Here's also the output of Jarvis, where we can follow what he was doing. So everything worked like a charm. I hope you liked what I saw. I hope you learned something. And if you want to give me some positive feedback, I really appreciate a thumbs up, maybe a positive comment, and if you like, to a subscription. See you in the next video.